Good afternoon, Australia. I hope I'm not
Thank you.
mistaken. Good afternoon, Australia, and a very cold morning here in New Jersey, in America. So, welcome to Sweetspire Stories. Okay, so this is the home to inspiration and your daily dose of faith. So, today we have one of our esteemed authors, Joanne Lynam. So, hi, how are you doing?
Good, thanks. Really good. Yeah, it's a quite warm Townsville evening here in Queensland, Australia. I have
That's
the air
very
conditioner going.
comforting. So very far from our very cold 3 plus morning here in New Jersey. So anyway, I'm going to go straight to the point because I wanted to share your story. We have what we call Sweetspire Stories. So we've started this way back, I think that was 2020. So we've been at it for quite some time, and we just want to hear our authors directly say or tell our audience what the book is all about, because there's more to that story than just being it. So, what inspired you to write An Angel at My Door?
That's an excellent question. It was kind of strange, not the usual sort of process of, oh, I want to write a book. In fact, I had a dream 3 times in which I wrote a book. And to be honest, I woke up the first time in a total panic, like, oh my God, I don't want to write a book. I can't write a book.
Oh,
So then I picked up a book that I've got here that gives you a bit of a guide about the meanings of dreams. And it said, oh, dreaming about writing a book means a desire to learn. And I went, oh, thank goodness for that. And then I had that same dream again. And then the third time I had the dream, I knew this is not about wanting to learn. You are being called to write. And so then I sat to meditate and what am I to write about? What is this about? And that's when it was very clear it was about Emma's story and what she's done.
I see. Well, basically, I think it's more of like something is calling you. Something is calling you. It's like the dream was telling you that you should share this book. You should start writing. Did you have any formal training with this one?
No, I did not. No, I didn't have any formal training. My background is music. I was a musician when I was younger. Then I had we adopted 2 children, and then I did some study and went into human rights kind of work. So no, I didn't have any background to write. And in fact, many years ago, a friend and I had read the same book, and she said, oh, I'd love to write a book one day, wouldn't you? And I said, no, that seems like a lot of work to me. I was
Okay.
right.
Well, anyway, Joe, the book touches certain themes of motherhood, resilience. So, how did you weave these themes into the narrative of you finally finishing the book?
So resilience is one of those things that we hear a lot about. And, people write about it, people have workshops about it. I, on the other hand, believe that it is essentially within all of us. It's part of us. What's not there is an awareness of that. So I believe that there's a connection that we all have to something divine, something greater than us. And if you can just stop with all of the panic and all of the worry in any situation, then that resilience kicks in, and it's there within all of us. And it's always been something I've been mindful of. So when I started to write, obviously resilience and the part it plays was going to come into this book, and I found myself naturally sort of weaving it in. And one day when I was reading back what I'd written, I had a bit of a laugh and went, oh, you can't help yourself, there it is.
Okay. Well, anyway, that's what I want the readers to hear. So people tune in to Sweetspire Stories because sometimes some of them they just want to listen to stories, but sometimes it's these kinds of feedback from you as an author, like
Mm.
You were just being a mother. You were just being
Yeah.
strong for your daughter. So that's
Mm.
what I want people to hear about the most, because I want them to feel that if there is something significant that I could share to make this world a bit better, then I would do it because someone did it and I can do it
Mm.
too. So,
Mm.
what do you hope readers can take away from An Angel at My Door? So, is there some a message and feelings you want them to be left with? So, anything you can impart, really.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's understanding that anything is possible. And I talk about that in the book and in my everyday life with ordinary people in ordinary situations. It's something that I know to be possible because it's happened to me in my life several times. Anything is possible because possibility is like a thread that connects you. Yeah. So you're always connected to that source of an answer or a resolution to a problem. So we have a problem, we have a challenge. It's like a card. On the one side of the card, oh, look at that challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Turn the card over. There is the possibility of all the answers right there. You just have to be willing to understand that it's possible. It's there. No one's tested or challenged beyond what you can do. They really aren't. I mean, I look at my life with my daughter, and it may seem strange to have a child with so many challenges and disabilities. She's the greatest thing that ever happened to me. She's the making of me. In fact, all three of my children are. The challenges in adopting my two sons and then Emma coming into my life. And it was only when I was actually sitting at the computer one day, typing up chapter to the book that I realized she has actually played a huge part in the purpose of my life. And as I was writing it, I realized that. And I might never have fulfilled or recognized that without accepting the challenge.
Well,
And that challenge.
that's the strong version of you, I think, because you would, like, all your three children has sort of completed you. I mean, you have a very supportive husband. You have, I don't want to call them adopted, really. They are your sons. They are your sons. They've completed
Absolutely.
you first before Emma came in, and Emma was the final puzzle. She
Yeah.
completed all of you, all of the family too.
Absolutely. And her role in this family is perfect. Absolutely perfect. What she brings to the boys is amazing. I can recall a number of years ago, boys were a bit younger and they were talking about friends and their attitudes to things. And as the boys went home that night, I realized how fortunate we are to have Emma in our lives, because she's given them an entirely different lens to view life through. So instead of seeing life through, what I want, my life, me, they have another lens to look through. So that affords them a lot more compassion and understanding to people. Both of my sons are tradesmen. Now, you might not think that matters, but actually being understanding, being compassionate is incredibly important in dealing with people, especially in their home.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's a gift.
Yes, I was just thinking that, most of the men in the family, basically in the family, you see them, often they're the strongest one. They show the strength of the family. They usually does that. But you see, because they grew up and seeing Emma, their sister, and they know that Emma needs this special care, so they have become more pliant. They've become more caring. So growing up as a man, it's not more about the masculine, but it's more about they've developed the care that certain people do not always have the opportunity to have with. They're
Exactly.
very lucky. Very
Yeah,
lucky.
they are.
So in my mind, while you're saying that, it's just playing in my imagination how they are growing up. Must be very protective brothers, I suppose.
Extremely. Both Roshan and Latsri are both on the board that I set up for Emma. And I can recall my sister saying to me a number of years ago when I set it up, she said, but are you sure that Rashan and Luxury want to do that? Because I'm pretty sure my sons wouldn't want to do that. And I was talking to Rashan and Luxury said, yeah, Mum, but they didn't grow up with Emma. They didn't have an Emma in their life. And having Emma in their life gave them a whole different way. So every achievement of Emma's, for them, they're filled with pride. Everything that she's done, they're filled with pride. They're only, too willing to support. What do we need to do, Mum? They will be on that board and guide her life forward long after I'm gone. She will still be taken care of.
Speaking about long after you're gone, let's just say life ends, life is a cycle, life starts, but you can be very assured Emma has these two brothers who so unselfishly love her. So
absolutely.
That is the gift of the family. So
that's the thing, that she has a lot of people who love her, that care for her in this community. And so in that way, I see that Emma and I had a contract, if you like. Long before she came here, we had a contract. I agreed, okay, I'll be your mum. You'll be my daughter. Yeah, I know you've got a journey, you've got a mission. Yep, I know you're going to come with a lot of challenges. I will help you. And her mission, her contract, if you like, is to have people understand inclusion and to look beyond what you think you see. If all you can see is the disability, you haven't seen anything. Look again. That's not it. And that's
there's more. There's more to it, really.
Yeah.
Well, I can just say that it's very lucky. Emma grew up in a very loving family and very supportive too. So I wanted to talk more about you as the author here. So can you share a bit about the writing process? Or, writers, they're different. So do you have any specific ritual or some habits? Perhaps you could share some quirky things you did as a writer.
Well, I knew once I had made the commitment and been shown what I needed to write, what the message was, I knew that I would need to be disciplined. So I had a little process where I would set the timer on my clock for 9 o'clock. And that's when I would sit down with a task. I've got to finish this chapter today, or I have to cull so many words from that part. And then I would have the timer go off for lunch, stop, eat, come back, and by 3 o'clock I would stop, and then I would do the same the next day. I knew that I needed to be disciplined. Otherwise, if I wasn't disciplined, I'd probably let myself off the hook. So I decided I'd be very disciplined about it.
Okay, well, that's one thing. So to all our listeners out there, to Sweetspire Stories, I know you're seeing this. So that's an advice from from Joe here. Discipline is the key to finishing your book. That's it. So how did the story evolve from the initial idea? I know it was a dream, so let me rephrase that. How did the story evolve from the initial dream to having the book finally in your hands?
Well, actually, we have to go back a bit further than that. The title, An Angel at My Door, actually came 10 days after Emma was born. I came home from hospital, but she had to remain for another 2 months. And so I came home and I was sitting at the table and I was writing notes. Thank you to family who had sent, flowers and etc. And I had a notebook there and my hand moved from writing thank you notes to the notebook. And in one go, without thinking about it, without stopping, a poem just poured out of me. An Angel at My Door, in one go. That's never happened to me before. And I finished it and I read it and I just sat at the table and sobbed because I realized this was such a gift to me. Thank you. That presence that had come to me when I was simply 9 weeks and 3 days pregnant and shown me that I was carrying a little girl with Down syndrome. Here it was again, showing me the path forward that I had signed up for. And even talking about it makes me emotional. I
Mm.
I was overwhelmed by that incredible gift to be shown the way forward, that it was bright, it would be good. Yeah.
Well,
So,
writing this book, even finishing it, has been a very emotional journey. And
yes,
you just answered
yes,
my
yes,
other
yes.
question, which was you navigated the emotional highs and lows while working on this project, because the reason why up until now, that you feel so strongly about the book is because we backtrack long before you were pregnant. You were chosen specifically. For any other entity, we different religions, different beliefs, but it was someone in the higher process. Someone, God was watching you and saying, "Emma's gonna be a gift to this family."
Mm. And the same with my two sons who are adopted from Sri Lanka. I know very strongly we had a contract, and at some point I said, "Don't worry, I will find you. I will find you. No matter where you are, I will find you." And in the case of our second child, that certainly was a hard ask to fulfill.
Yes.
It was surprising though. A friend had said to me before I started writing, "Just be careful, Joe. When you're writing this, it'll probably drag up a lot of painful things I've experienced." But interestingly, writing about that wasn't challenging. The part that reduced me to tears one day was writing about adopting our second child, Luxury, the day that we actually went to court and brought him back to where we were staying. And he suddenly realized that he had to say goodbye to Aka, the lady who had brought him down. And he was going to be left with us. And he was sobbing and crying and reaching out for her, calling out as she was getting into the taxi, "No, Aka, no, Aka." And it was heartbreaking, and I couldn't write it. I just could not write it. I sat here and I kept saying, "Take a deep breath, get up, make a cup of tea." Had another cup of tea, sat down, "I'll be good." No. And I had to move on and write other and come back to it after I had made my peace with the fact that that was something I hadn't resolved within myself. But it was quite cathartic to have it come up, to look at it, to feel all of that again, to be able to even feel the afternoon sun burning on me, and hear this smell the fire of the people next door, and hear the sounds in the neighbourhood. And it was all right there. It was like I was suddenly back in Sri Lanka, and it was very challenging, but good.
Those were the signs. You had all of these signs all along, really.
Absolutely.
Writing is a very emotional journey. So
It is.
you've navigated all of that with just being you, and I suppose, of course, the support of your husband, Greg. So I would like to ask this. What advice would you give to aspiring authors who are looking to publish their first book, or who are looking to, even if it's not going to be a book, to just start writing, pour out all of their emotions out there? What advice would you give them?
I've been asked this before, and what I say is, what is it that drew you to want to write it down? What is it that's pulling you to do that? Get in touch with that. What is that? What is that thing that you feel, this is important, this means something? You're being called or pulled by something. Trust that and go with it, because that's something far greater than you. It's asking you, it's calling you to a task. And if you can just be willing to step up, you'll probably find that it's the guidance is there. For example, whilst I had a discipline and I would sit at 9 o'clock and write, there were times when I would be like, I have no idea how to put that bit with that bit, how to get it to come together. And what happened to me not once, not twice, but so many times, was that I would be in bed 1, 2 in the morning, and I would suddenly be woken up and I would hear it running like a commentary of how to put it together. And so I quickly learned that the best thing to do is grab my phone and record it into the phone. And then the next morning, of course, I could type it up. So I always say, yes, I wrote the book, but something much greater than me wrote huge parts of that book. And I simply sat here and typed it. And I think that if you can tap into that reason of why, that greater thing will come to you and it will help you write it. You just have to get yourself out of the road. And that's the hard part, actually, putting your ego aside and just trusting. Yeah.
Just get it started. Find your why, the reason of your why, and just get it out. Okay. So how has writing An Angel at My Door impacted your life right now?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. It's had an enormous impact in terms of the way in which I see things. I would like to write another book, but there's a lot going in my life at the moment, so it's not right now. And I catch myself sometimes hearing something, seeing something, or watching something, and I'm interpreting it through a lens of a writer and how that applies. So I might read something to do with disability, or I'll be online looking at something, and my head will interpret it in a quite spiritual way. So I have a sense that I'm going to write something about disability, but more from a spiritual perspective. Not quite sure yet, because as I say, there's a lot going on at the moment.
Yes, that is true. My last question would somehow be more of on this personal note from you. So what has been the most memorable feedback that you've received from the reader so far after you have first published this book?
This is something I had not expected. I know that sounds strange, but I just hadn't expected to hear people's feedback about the book. And one of the most beautiful was actually from a lady who has absolutely nothing to do with disability. She doesn't have a child with a disability or grandchildren or anything. And she likes to read true stories about people's lives. And she's an older lady, she's not online, but she actually went to the trouble of getting her son to hunt me down on Facebook so she could tell me how much she loved the book and how she felt that the book should be placed in the hands of every doctor. And yeah, there's another lady who also just recently actually reached out to me again on Facebook to say that she teaches adults who've been out of work for a long time. So she works with them, and she read my book, and she uses the book with those students as a way to help them look beyond what they think they see. They think that they're washed up. And she says she says to them, if Emma can, we can. And I was, oh my goodness.
That's true. I mean, it makes you a bit emotional because you do not know all of these people. These are strangers. Yes. Yeah. These are strangers.
Yeah.
So it's just the kind of impact really that you as a writer, I mean, if we are going to make millions out of this book, so be it. But if you are to make just a person be strong enough and saying, if Emma can do it, so can we as a family too. That means more than a million.
And I've had this sense for some time.
It's more than anything else.
Yeah, I've had a sense for some time that it's not about how many books it sells, but if I could be guided by something greater than me to write a book that I thought I could never do, and never felt, called to do, and suddenly I'm writing a book, then I have to trust that this book will find its way into the hands of those that need to read it. And that's beyond me. And that's how I leave it. It will find its way to those who need to read it. And so far that's the case. People who read it, and the feedback I get is that they laughed, they cried, and then they laughed and cried some more.
Well, that's the kind of, it's the kind of the book, I don't know, it's serendipity or it's just lucky or something, but the book really is trying to find those people. It gets into the hands of those people that might not need it, but would be able to recommend it. They would be able to recommend it to friends of a friend, to
Mm,
those needing more inclusivity, to those needing more understanding.
mm,
But
mm.
anyway, I also would like to tell all our subscribers in YouTube, subscribers as well on Facebook, TikTok, Book Talk. Sweetspire Stories is online. They can always find your book out there. And most importantly, your book's going to be present in Frankfurt Book Fair 2024. So before we finish this interview, this has been very helpful, but I want you to say hi to all of our viewers in Frankfurt and just say hi to them and tell them about a little bit about your book. That's just it.
Hi to everyone in Frankfurt. Thank you for taking the time to have a look at my book. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you take the message from the book that anything is possible, that you, like my daughter, can do anything. And I hope you understand that you have within each of you enormous resilience and enormous potential. We all do. I'm just a mum sitting here in Townsville in Queensland who was called to write a book that I had always said I'd never write. Anything's possible, and it's in everyone. That spark. Enjoy.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Joanne. So thank you so much for gracing our interview to Sweetspire Inspirational Stories. Once again, your dose of inspiration and dose of faith. So thank you, everyone. So I hope to see you in person. And hoping we could visit Australia for our Australian caravan, Sweetspire Literature Caravan 2025. It's going to be in Sydney. So I'm hoping you're going to be there. You should be there. You must be there.
I definitely will be there.
You must be there. So anyway, I won't keep you long. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
yes, bye-bye.